Now, ANC leaders and the president himself are considering their response to the damning findings in the Phala Phala report. The National Executive Committee of the party was to meet urgently today. It will now meet tomorrow at the Nasrec Expo Centre. That is the highest decision-making body of the ANC between conferences. Let's talk to SABC's News Political editor, I Mzwandile Mbeje. Great to have you with us, Mzwa.
Thank you, Francis.
So there's something of a scramble going on. Let's start with the president himself. He has to be considering his response to this report, and it couldn't be worse for him, surely.
You know, when he issued the statement last night, he said, we will be carefully considering the report in the interest of the stability of the country. I'm just paraphrasing it. So that tells you that whatever next course of action will be thought out very carefully. But of course, we know he is in a very difficult position. And for me, it's now really up to him, given his past pronouncements, how he has always wanted to be seen and viewed in public. He has championed himself as someone who is fighting corruption and any whiff of it. So if then you are somehow, I mean, he still maintains his innocence. But there is a panel comprised of top legal minds saying you may have something to answer after all. So how do you respond? I think, judging by what I know of him in terms of his pronouncement and what he wants to do, he may perhaps be thinking about, well, maybe it's time.
And what's the word on the street in terms of the people around him? Because he has put people in position. They may want that. Or are they close advisors saying, go? Do we know? You know,
in politics it's quite interesting because he has appointed cabinet. There's a lot of people that he has appointed. There's a lot of patronage that goes around. So,
because let's remember, he's got a big cabinet.
Absolutely.
Despite expectations, he may slim down.
Yes. So then, given the competing interests around this matter, there will be those who would say, you know what, Mr. President, you've not been charged. So fight this thing. But it is now up to him. I think it's his conscience will now have to decide. But I can tell you, Francis, knowing how he feels about these issues, I honestly don't see him fighting this through. But I know anyway, at this stage, we're just speculating based on what we know in terms of the interaction. He has been very strong on fighting the issues of corruption. And if now he decides that he will then follow the process and then there's that cloud, so what is he different from anyone else? It means he's like all of them.
And that makes it very difficult for the ANC as well. So the National Working Committee is meeting tonight. The National Executive Committee is meeting tomorrow. Tell us about these two bodies. I mean, they could recall him if he doesn't want to go, if they wanted to.
Well, not necessarily. What is going to happen, the National Working Committee is basically finalizing the points of discussion, and I know it's really this issue because they are tasked with the day-to-day operations of the ANC. But the NEC is the highest decision-making body. But the interesting part about the ANC, Francis, is that it's left with only 2 weeks before an even bigger structure, which is the conference. So do you go as the NEC and make that decision whilst the body in 2 weeks can always overturn that? So I really see him taking that decision. And obviously competing interests will want certain outcomes. But from what I know, what he's always been saying, I think he may fall on his sword.
All right, if the president resigns tonight, what does that mean for the looming ANC National Conference? There were two presidential candidates, him and Mzwandile Mbeje. Does that mean Mbeje is a shoo-in, or now is the race wide open again? How does it work?
You know, I spoke to Paul Mashatile some 2 days ago. I spoke about him rising from the floor. So what basically this does not necessarily mean Mbeje has already won. someone can still rise from the floor. So what if those who had decided to
back...
So
a 25% threshold,
yes.
but there may now be motivation
to... Assuming he's not standing anymore, that what if those who had nominated him decide we're backing a different candidate? So it's not concluded at all. But of course, in the absence of anyone else who has pronounced or who has reached the threshold, so someone will think perhaps Kize will have it, but it's far from over. But we'll be able to answer those questions once he speaks to the nation at the time of his choosing.
All right, political editor I Mzwandile Mbeje.
And of course, as we've been saying here on the show, that we are watching and waiting to see if the president will be addressing the nation tonight. Remember, the Section 89 panel releasing that report, handing it over to Parliament in the morning. Then in the evening, we then as the nation got to get some sense of, what was entailed inside of that particular report. On the side of the screen, there's a lot of microphones as expected ahead of, what we're expecting to be the president's address. And Mzwai is back with us in studio. That's our political editor, Mzwandile Mbeje. Mzwai, you're back. And of course, when can we now? Because when one sees movement of cameras, movement of people testing microphones, we're starting to get a sense that we're getting closer. Are we getting closer? You're laughing. What's going on?
Yeah, I guess because I think the nation is really expecting, based on what the president really said, that he was going to be communication with the nation as soon, in due course, as soon as he had carefully studied that. But we do understand from our sources that actually it is not happening today or tonight. And then I think the spokesperson will be able to explain that in the short while. And
before you go, I think I see the spokesperson in the blocks there, and it looks like he's probably going to be addressing. So I don't know if we can go there or we're staying with Mzwai, but do we understand the circumstances of why this is not happening?
There's a lot of consultations that he still needs to do. There are a number of stakeholders, and I guess we need to perhaps hear from him. But that is my understanding, that he still needs to consult a wide variety of people.
All right, Mzwai, pause a second. I'll come back to you in just now. Let's take you to the spokesperson of the President, Vincent Magwenya, and listen. And I do understand that the President's spokesperson might be speaking. Guys, am I correct? All right, Mzwai, it looks like we are still waiting for Vincent Magwenya then to be able to give us a sense of what exactly is going on there. But let's talk about these consultations, because these are consultations that would be critical. And Mzwai, it's not the first time the ANC is finding itself in this particular position right now. And I do understand that Vincent is now live. I'll come back to you on that one.